teaching Andrew how to be a global thinker, how to think outside his person, his community, his family, to how his actions impact others in the world at large, and what differences he can make on the world at large, was something that we certainly loved about Mabin and really enjoyed that aspect of Mabin.
Hi, I'm Danielle and I'm from Our Kids. I just spoke with Jody, the parent of Andrew. Andrew attended the Mabin School, a progressive co-ed elementary school in Toronto. Listen to Jody's insight about the school curriculum, the faculty, an opportunity for growth, and ultimately why Jody would recommend the school as an exceptional option for students. And can you tell me a little bit more about Andrew? What are his likes and dislikes?
So Andrew is kind of a natural born comedian. He picks up on language and jokes, and he loves to do impressions, voices. He memorizes funny bits. So he's a very social kid that way. In terms of academics, he's very, very interested in politics. He reads about current events, political events, social events, environmental events, and he's very politically and consciously aware. And that is also partially because we as a family are very aware of those kinds of things, and it's often the topic of dinner table conversation. So he's the youngest of three. So we have an 18-year-old, a 16-year-old, and Andrew is 11. But he more than keeps up with the conversation, and that is due in no small part to the exposures he's had to these types of issues at Mabin.
What kind of learner is Andrew?
So Andrew is a very visual, auditory learner. He really absorbs experiential learning processes more than any other type of learning. That being said, he also needs classroom instruction and will often do best if he's given a little one-on-one kind of supports during the learning process.
And did your elder two children also attend Mabin, or is Andrew the only child to attend Mabin?
So the other two children were at a different school, which is a school that Andrew was at as well. And we weren't satisfied with the type of educational supports he was receiving and the progress that he was making at this other school. We became very disenchanted, and we were looking for a home to bring Andrew, someplace that would really appreciate him for his gifts, work with his challenges, and look at him as on a holistic level and say, how can we best support this young mind? How can we get the best work, the best experience, the best information to and from this young learner? And we really found a home at Mabin that spoke to that type of learning style for him.
Did you do some searching outside of Mabin to see if there would be another school that would provide what you were looking for Andrew? And ultimately, why did you choose Mabin over those other options?
So when we made the decision to take Andrew out of his current learning environment and find a different learning environment, he was in grade 4. So we hired an educational consultant who presented us with various options. Mabin was actually not one of those options. Mabin was a place that we found on our own. And after looking at all the other options, we found that the educational consultant had completely misread our child. And none of those were going to give Andrew the kind of nurturing, supportive, small classroom environment that Mabin was going to do. None of them offered the kind of progressive but academically rigorous training that Andrew received at Mabin. And ultimately, we felt Mabin was a place that could work with us and work with Andrew, rather than impose, this is the way we do things, this is the, insert the name of the school way of doing things. Certainly Mabin had an ethos about it, and it was an ethos that we wanted to work with. But ultimately, they wanted to make sure that they could get the best out of Andrew, and Andrew could have the best possible educational experience with them.
Can you explain what the application process is like?
So the application process is a fairly standard process, that there's an application that's filled out, there's some references that are submitted. But the most important part of the Maven application process is the one-on-one interview with the staff at Maven, and also Andrew was put in a situation where he was talking to other Maven students as well as someone from the faculty at Maven. So it really is a not, there aren't hard and fast rules about the admission process there, and certainly you have to submit all the paperwork. But getting to know the staff there and them getting to know you, I think, is the most important part of the whole application process.
And how would you explain Andrew's overall experience at Mabin? Was it a positive or negative experience?
I would be hard pressed to overstate the positive experience Andrew had at Mabin. The way they worked with Andrew to really unlock his gifts and his potential. When he entered the Mabin curriculum, he had some difficulties in certain of the core subjects like math. And Mabin really worked with him one-on-one to bring him up to level and even exceed the level. When he started, he really hated the math, but by the time he finished, it was a subject, I wouldn't say he loved it, but certainly it was a subject that he was very competent in and comfortable with. In addition, the experience with Mabin as a progressive school, teaching Andrew how to be a global thinker, how to think outside his person, his community, his family, to how his actions impact others in the world at large, and what differences he can make on the world at large, was something that we certainly loved about Mabin and really enjoyed that aspect of Mabin. The outdoor educational component was something that Andrew really took to, spending time outdoors, learning to do things with the other students, those team building, that sense of community was amazing for him. And in 5th grade, unfortunately in 6th grade, his school trip was canceled due to COVID. But in 5th grade, the 5th graders helped to plan their end of the term school trip. And he really enjoyed that experience, the independence it gave him, the ability to search out different places and plan different things. And these are skills that he can build upon later in life when he's trying to do more difficult things like find an apartment to rent or start getting groceries for himself. Still a few years away, mind you, because he's only in 7th grade now. But it's never too early to start building a sense of independence within students. And if there is one thing that Mabin was excellent at, it is teaching those kids to be independent, taking responsible risks, and really learning to do things on their own, and trying and failing, but then succeeding at the end of the day. So it was an incredibly positive experience, and I would encourage anyone who is looking for a school to take a look at Mabin.
Did you feel as though the faculty adequately paid attention to the learning styles of each individual child and then adapted to help suit their needs?
That is one of Mabin's true strengths. Because it is a small school, because it is a small learning environment, it really does lend itself to one-on-one learning supports. They'll identify a deficiency in a student or a challenge in a student, and then they will kind of individualize a program to help remediate that, to help that student overcome the challenge. Number one, because they are committed to the education of the students, but number two, they're very, very keyed into making the student feel successful and overcoming that problem and succeeding at the end of the day. So absolutely, there is room for them to individualize the learning experience for the child.
And if you can name one thing that you think Andrew liked the most about his experience at Mabin, what do you think it would be?
I mean, there are so many things that he really enjoyed about Mabin, but I think at the end of the day, He enjoyed the ability to participate in the outdoor educational aspect of Mabin and to plan that end of the year trip to see some different things, to go there with his classmates who are his friends to this day. I think that is probably one of the best experiences that he had there.
And what do you as a parent personally appreciate and like the most about Mabin?
As a parent, we really appreciated Mabin's openness, their ability to kind of come to us if there were any sorts of issues, to work together to make the best possible learning experience for Andrew, to embrace all of his gifts, to help him with all of his challenges. That faculty reached out to us and we reached out to them, and there was never any kind of friction whatsoever. Everyone was on the same page trying to get the best experience for our son out of that whole learning environment. I really truly believe that as a whole, every person in that school is committed to every student in that school.
Sounds like there's a very strong sense of community between the faculty and the parents and an open door policy for communication. But can you speak a little bit more about the relationship between parents and parents? Did you feel like the values between families were aligned?
I think that everyone came from different backgrounds. There's no one type of Mabin parent. I think we all shared a belief in a progressive education for our children. Otherwise, they wouldn't be there. I found all of the parents, I found all of the students open and welcoming to Andrew. He only came in 5th grade. So Mabin ends after 6th grade. So we only had 2 years there. But he was quickly accepted into the classroom in 5th grade and made to feel a part of a whole. And it was the same with us as parents. The parents were very open and welcoming. They were free with help and advice, and they reached out to us, and it was a very warm and welcoming experience. In addition, there's lots of participation, unfortunately not so much due to COVID, but prior to COVID, there was regular events at the school where the entire school would come together and share as parents and students, and it was really just a wonderful atmosphere.
My next question for you was whether there was opportunities for parent involvement, but it sounds like there was quite a few.
Anytime a parent wanted to become involved in the school, whether it be through the lunch program, through the Parent-Teacher Association, through grade parents, field trip chaperones, there were numerous opportunities for involvement in the school.
Can you speak a little bit about the extracurricular opportunities available to students?
So there was a significant amount of homework, academic support after school, outside of school, as well as opportunities for sporting activities, soccer and basketball within the school, prior to school and after school. There was a very, in addition, one of the things that's unique about Mabin is there, outside of the school hours, there is a strong connection to the community at large. We were paired with sister schools, doing exchanges with the students at those schools. We were doing community outreach to help with sheltered families, providing supports for them. There was, Mabin is now undergoing a renovation and a capital campaign to create a space where more community outreach can take place. We would often have members of the community, the academic community, as well as the social community, into the school for various lectures and information sessions, and really just growth opportunities.
Was there anything about your experience or Andrew's experience at Mabin that you found particularly surprising? Perhaps something that you didn't think would happen, or an expectation that you didn't know about until you were put into that situation?
I think that when I first started with Mabin, the concept of a progressive education was wrapped up in, flowers and trees and not a very rigorous academic setting. And what I found as I went through Mabin, there was a significant rigorous academic component, but there was also a very significant social component and a community outreach component, And in addition to coming out with strong academic fundamentals, Andrew came out with a sense of community. But the most surprising thing was how strong academically he came out of his experience. The one other thing that Mabin really does an amazing job of, because they end at sixth grade, they do work very hard with their families and their students to find the continuation of the academic environment for them. They really sit down with each individual student, look at their strengths, look at the schools that are available to them, and really try and find a great fit for their students. And practically all of their students get the first choice of where they want to go, and by and large do incredibly well in whatever new environment they choose.
So you feel like Andrew is adequately prepared for the next step of his education upon leaving Mabin?
Not adequately. He is amazingly prepared for the next step in his educational experience. He has been set up with all the fundamentals for success, but also an ability to reach out and ask for the help that he needs in whatever environment he is in. He's not afraid to ask for help. He doesn't see any shame or stigma in asking for help, but he is doing amazingly well.
I'm curious to pick your brain about the school's values. So every school can have values listed on a piece of paper, but you've witnessed Mabin firsthand. What would you say are their school's values in actual practice?
So there is an overriding philosophy in that school about the habits of mind, about progressive values, about community outreach. And every aspect of that is woven into the fabric of the school, whether it be a teacher-student interaction, a student-teacher interaction, a faculty-parent interaction, the lessons that are learned, and the extracurricular activities in the community all serve to reinforce this idea that they are raising young citizens of our country and of our world. And so I think it's a necessary I think that's a necessary lesson for us to learn. I find that people today have lost the ability to listen to each other. Everyone is so focused on repeating their own message and getting everyone to buy into their message that to a certain extent we've lost the ability to listen to others and maybe hear about a different experience or a different point of view. Mabin is excellent at teaching people to listen and to respond appropriately.
And do you or Andrew have a particularly fond memory about his experience at Mabin, whether that was a certain assignment, an extracurricular, a play that they put on, something that you can speak about?
So one of the assignments that Andrew had was he had to do what was called an ology. So basically he was to take a topic and he was to examine the topic from all different angles and do audio-visual presentations regarding the topic, research regarding the topic, a paper regarding the topic. And he came to us and he said, I want to do an ology about breakfast. And of course, Hillary and I said, breakfast, that's kind of an unusual topic. I'm not sure that really lends itself to that kind of academic experience or the kind of research experience. And he said, no, what I want to do is breakfast is different all over the world. People eat different things. What they eat is dependent on their environment, on their country, on ethnic origins, on what food is even available. And I want to examine all the different places and all the different breakfasts that people eat. And we said, okay, you know what? You've made your case. If the teacher is okay with it, we're okay with it. And the teacher was completely supportive of it. And it was a very enriching experience for him and a very interesting experience for us as parents. Number one, we had a vision in mind of what the academic activity should look like. And he had a different vision. And he was able to come to us, articulate his vision, and sell us that it would be as academically enriching as something that we would have picked for him. And the teacher also clued into that and supported him 100%. So if you're looking at kind of like one little vignette out of his experience, that would be it, I think.
You must have been really proud of him.
We are incredibly proud of him.
That's wonderful. It sounds like you've had such an incredible experience there, and Andrew has as well. But I'm curious to play devil's advocate for a moment. So we know that no school is perfect. If you were to name one weakness or an opportunity that you see for growth and development with Mabin, what do you think that would be?
So if there is one weakness that Maven has, it's their physical plant. They're housed in an old house. So there isn't a huge amount of space. And that's why they're undergoing this capital campaign to build out some additional space so the kindergarten kids don't have to go to school in a basement. They can go to school in a place with some natural light. The physical plant is a limitation of the school. They only have so much space, but the space that they do have, they have engineered well, and they have resourced it well, and they've used everything they can.
I want to be respectful of your time. So before we wind down and I ask you my last couple questions, is there anything about Mabin that I haven't asked you yet that you feel is important to mention?
No, I think we've covered off most of the aspects of Maven that are significant.
And I imagine that you would recommend Mabin as a suitable option for another parent who's considering sending their child to the school, but would you be able to speak about why or why not you would recommend Mabin?
So for the parent that has a kid who's a thinker, who is maybe interested in something socially aware, that is looking for a small, nurturing environment, a progressive environment for them to spread their wings, embrace their challenges, and overcome those. I would recommend that. If you are looking for a traditional private school, prep school environment with sports teams and that kind of house activity, traditional, I don't know, New England boarding school, I don't think Mabin will fit the bill for you. But so that's the advice I would give.
And for my very last question, if you were to pick up the phone and call your past self before embarking on this entire Mabin experience, what would you tell yourself?
Um, you're in for a very wonderful, nurturing, caring experience. Don't worry about the academics, they're there. They are going to give your child so much joy about the learning that you should jump in with both feet.